Welcome to memoQ Talks, where we talk to industry leaders about their experiences, lessons learned, and what works best across all areas of localization. Now here's your host,
Stefan.
Hey,
how are you,
Mark?
man?
Good.
So we're here just outside of the memoQ Day Seattle venue. We started off, I think, at about 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning. Just wrapped up at 3 in the afternoon. It's 3:30 now. We had an amazing turnout, and you participated. You did a great job. What were your thoughts, man?
You're really sucking it to me. You're extending my working day with this podcast. You're going to drain me.
You got to earn your keep, man. You got to earn your keep. Otherwise, you're going to have to walk back to Texas. All right?
You tricked me into this. You tricked me into this. You said it was
walking home. You heard it here. We'll get you in the back doing dishes.
Yeah.
No, but you did a great job.
Thank you.
The panel discussion, we scheduled an hour, went for an hour and 15. In my sense is we probably could have went on for another 15, 20 minutes, if not longer. A lot of interaction there. It's great. One of the topics that we discussed is the application of AI, obviously in localization, but specifically in terms of how we can use things like ChatGPT to make us more effective, more efficient with the use of social media, specifically LinkedIn. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Do you know what LinkedIn is?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Isn't it a social media thing?
I don't know. I got to ask my kids, man. They know all about this internet stuff, man. No, but seriously, you've become, I would say, very, high profile user in the last couple of years. I think you have a LinkedIn newsletter that has 5,000-6,000 subscribers more.
That much?
I don't know. You tell me, man.
Yeah,
were you pumping the numbers? Were you lying to me, man?
Yeah,
were you just trying to impress me the other night?
That's probably
Mark,
it.
I got like 6,000.
2 or 3 that read my letter once in a while, I think.
No, you've got a good LinkedIn newsletter. I think. How many followers do you have on LinkedIn now?
As of today, it's above 21,000, I think.
That is pretty awesome. I want to get into the benefits of having something like a newsletter and having a lot of followers on LinkedIn. But first off, when did the interest start in terms of actually, because a lot of people are, I would call either passive LinkedIn users or just kind of haphazard users, where they'll go on and they'll like something. Every once in a while, they'll post something. I don't feel like most people have this like general overarching strategy or even have any tactics. They're just kind of ad hocing it. And I'm sure you were there at one point. When did you decide to stop ad hocing it and actually get more like focused on, hey, I'm gonna start using this?
It's a big commitment once you get sucked into it. But I'm typically, when I get into something, I don't do things half. So that's it. Probably just naturally evolved like that. Somebody actually challenged me and said you should start posting on LinkedIn a bit, and I really, really was bad in the beginning, and it motivated me to try to get better. And it's like so many of the social media applications, it's really a game. So once you start getting into the game, you want to get better and learn how to really do it properly. That's kind of how it happened. And now it's a secondary job, so to speak. But
okay.
I enjoy it, though. Enjoy it.
So when you decided to get serious, which sounds like, if somebody's challenged you and you got serious about it, how did you start to understand, what the best practices are? Because there's all kinds of people out there that are selling snake oil in terms of like, hey, I can get you 1 million followers in a day, all this kind of stuff. But how did you learn about what's effective?
It's hogwash that you would be able to buy your way into social media. I think it's winning the game of social media is all about being authentic and finding your voice. So you have to kind of decide what your subject matter is going to be. For me, it was AI and localization that I really settled on. I do a bit of social media advice as well, I would think, but it's mainly an audience that is interested in the new technologies in localization that follows me.
But my question is, where did you go to learn about this? I mean, you can't just go like buy a book on like, hey, how to get more followers on LinkedIn, or how to get more engagement on LinkedIn, or how to make more LinkedIn more effective. There's a bunch of people who are selling courses and things on, but how did you start to learn it? Are you just all self-taught?
There's plenty of information out there that kind of gives you the basics, I think. But a lot of the things that make you really good, you got to just experience. And like any game you play on a regular basis, you're going to get better at what you do just by experiencing. It's good to hang out to dry there a couple of times and not get any likes or any interaction.
Feel like a big loser.
Makes you
no likes. I'm a loser.
I mean, if I see some of the videos that I produced in the very beginning, they were all wrong, and they took so long to produce too. You learn the lessons quickly, I think.
Yeah. No. Okay. So once you start learning these lessons, I mean, one of the things you talk about is using tools like ChatGPT to make it much more efficient. Can you give me some specific examples of how you use ChatGPT to make your LinkedIn efforts more efficient, to optimize them?
So any kind of AI interaction can't really do the work for you. But like you said, they're tools just like you would use a calculator to do a complex math problem and do it a lot faster. AI can help you with ideation and shortcut that a lot and make it more efficient. So that's essentially how I use it. Something that might have taken me 20 minutes to come up with a good hook for a piece that I'm writing, I might do in 5 minutes now, because I can just prompt an LLM to give me 10 or 20 hooks and then fish out what I like the best and use it that way. So don't copy and paste stuff that GPT generates, because you'll fall through right away, but you can use it to give you a shortcut and speed things up.
Okay, so you're using it to help create ideas, maybe in terms of a post. Do you ever use it to create responses to posts, to other people's posts?
I use it for any kind of writing assignments that's a little bit more complex. One of the things that it does really well is adjust to a particular style that you instruct it to. So it might be that I'll give you an example for which I use it in business all the time. If I have a reply that I need to concoct, and it's a letter that's really, really tricky and sensitive, I've noticed that when I prompt that, it gives me a version that I can adapt much easier. And it's not like I couldn't write that letter myself. I deem myself a pretty decent writer. But by prompting my way through it, I'm shaving off half of the time, because it's giving me a version I can adapt, and I can beautify. It's like having a really good writing friend sitting next to you that gives you an initial version immediately that you can adapt.
Makes a lot of sense. What tips can you share with us in terms of, how to make a post get more engagement?
Write more engagingly.
So,
how do you engage an audience when you're we just had memoQ right here, and you hosted the roundtable. How did you get engagement from the audience? You asked them questions. That's a great way to get engagement, right? So in the beginning, I think that feels a little funny when you're writing a post and you're inserting questions in your post. You feel a little silly, maybe, because that's not the way you would intuitively write. But writing for social media involves that. You have to insert some questions and prompt people to get involved in the discussion. It also has something to do with the style of writing. If you're going to pick a topic, you want to make the topic a bit, I don't want to say controversial, but you want to not necessarily
provoking, opinion provoking.
Yeah, you want the posts. People that read the posts are going to pick one side or the other, and so when you write the thing, you don't necessarily pick a side. You just throw out the thought for commentary, and then people that read it might be more inclined to engage in conversation about it. So you're writing with the intent of provoking conversation. It's a little bit of a different writing style. You got that too. You gotta get into it.
Cool. And so, okay, so you're writing to create some kind of thought provoking or to elicit different people's opinions. What other, what else can you do? What advice would you give in terms of images versus videos? If you do images, how, talk about the best kind of images.
I'm a big believer in video. Anybody that follows me, anybody that follows me knows that I do a lot of moving images in my posts, and there's a good reason for that. Video and moving images work a lot better for engagement. We all know what TikTok has done with this kind of medium, and in the end, LinkedIn is interested in content that is sticky and generates views. So it's a lot easier to do with video content. Video content is a little bit more tricky too, though. Maybe that's why not a lot of people get involved with it. There's all kinds of things to pay attention to, and to keep video engaging is a bit challenging if you're not used to. It's kind of like writing as well. You have to have a certain style. Mr. Beast is a good guy to kind of pay attention to if you're interested in some of the methodologies of video. He'll give you a lot of pointers on how to keep video interesting. And he is in a long medium on YouTube. That's a little bit different from that as well. I think on LinkedIn you don't have nearly as much time. If you're going to be playing LinkedIn, your video content, I recommend it not being longer than a minute. A half a minute is actually probably better, but it's really tricky to get your point across in a half a minute or a minute. So that too, you have to adapt your style to the audience, so to speak. If you want to get better at writing for social media, the lights went up.
We're good, man.
Okay.
I'm here, man.
I'm shining, and you're shining too.
I'll protect you. Don't worry.
So, no, if you want to get good or better at figuring out how to get views on social media, I always have the same recommendation. Go on the fastest platform possible, which is Twitter or X. And you literally get like a half a second or less on Twitter to stop somebody in their tracks and get a click to go see what you're doing. Figure out what you're interested. Why are you stopping when you're on Twitter? When you're scrolling through the posts, what makes you stop? That's going to give you a lot of clues on how to play on LinkedIn, just to say.
Makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you, in terms of the LinkedIn quote unquote algorithm, like I've heard that, if you get not just a like, but a comment, a couple comments in the first 10 minutes of the post, you dramatically get that hockey stick engagement kind of thing going on. What's the rule there? What's true? What's false?
Sometimes a post surprises you and it doesn't go well in the first hour or two, and then all of a sudden it takes off. That happens. But I would say by and large, what you just said is true. And I always assume that I need to get some likes and comments and shares in the first 20 minutes. If I get good engagement in the first 20 minutes, that usually bodes well for the propagation of the post, so to speak. It's a little bit the way LinkedIn offers it up too, is that you have a core group of people that maybe you have a lot of interactions with and follow you closely. Those are the people that get if you post something, those are the people that are going to get that post offered up in the first hour, I would think. And then the second hour is more for secondary people. And once you're in the third hour, now you can see the algorithm starting to offer it up to people that are really outside of your regular circle of connections, so to speak. So the algorithm really tests the content at different levels to different groups. And it's, in the best case scenario, you clear all the groups in the same fashion. And if you can see on your post, if you see people that are tertiary connections that are start liking your posts, now you're probably going to get into something that might go viral. I've had it a couple of times when you get like 50 or 80,000 views on something. That only happens if the algorithm offers it up to tertiary connections. Now, with my content, that's not that easy because I have very specific interest group type of content. And so it's not often that something is eligible enough to be offered up far outside of my reach, so to speak. That's deliberate by choice, obviously, but that's the truth.
So would you advise if somebody's posting something to have them have their friends go ahead and, hey man, will you, actually you can have your friends like it.
Yeah.
But would you also advise like tagging a lot of people that the post is relevant to, or do they have to be in the post? Or for example, you're tagging an event, memoQ Day Seattle here, and you'd obviously want to tag or put at, the memoQ company, and then the people who are going to be speaking or presenting here. Would you also want to just tag some other industry profile people who might be interested in it or not?
No.
Okay.
I think you only tag when it's relevant. So if you take a picture with 5 people, you might want to tag the 5 people in the picture. That makes sense. If you're at an event like memoQ Day, you might want to tag memoQ because they flew you out all the way to Seattle, and it's a nice thing to do, and it's the right thing to do, and it's relevant. but don't go tagging people willy-nilly. That's also self-defeating. You're going to get punished for tags that don't get any reciprocation, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. If you're going to be tagging somebody, you might want to make sure that person wants to be tagged and they're actually going to like or comment on the post. If they don't beyond a certain amount of time, the algorithm is going to punish your post for that, and so you're going to get less engagement instead of more. So those are some base rules to keep in mind. But obviously, if you're in a group situation and you're doing something social, and there's a bunch of people in the video or in the photo, of course you're gonna tag them. And when you're hosting a networking event and there's 30 people that showed up, I think there's a limit of 27 or something like that you can tag in your post. Go ahead and tag them if you know that everybody's going to be interacting with you. That makes sense, but only then.
Cool. And in your case, what's the post that's had the highest engagement, and what were those numbers?
So I think I already touched upon it, that I've had a couple that really went beyond. And I just did one with Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal, who had an interview about AI and said something really positive about linguists that I caught on to right away and thought that's going to be an interesting supportive comment for linguists worldwide. And it really went for weeks. It's actually still getting likes. It got a like today, and it's 3 weeks old, I think. I got over close to 1,000 likes on it, and it went 51,000 views as a video clip. That's pretty exceptional in order to get that kind of exposure.
Well, and then how do you justify, or not justify, is that the word? How do you evaluate the performance based upon likes versus views? And were you talking about views, LinkedIn impressions? Are you talking about
impressions?
Okay, so like for you, what's the metric you value the most?
I think I value impressions the most because the likes quite often don't matter that much. It's about how much the algorithm pushes the post, and some of that is a little bit of black magic. You don't really control all the parameters. In truth, social media makes it so that you can't really determine all the parameters, and there's a little bit of gamification from that perspective. I actually don't know whether you know this, but I actually read that at some point all these companies, they go to Las Vegas to learn from the casino companies. Did you know that? They have a training thing where they teach people that make software how to gamify their software. And one of the tricks is, just like in Vegas, when you pull the slot machine, you're not really sure what the result is going to be. So there's certain things, and you don't control others.
There's a whole school at Stanford, and it's related to the Department of Psychology. It's run by BJ Fogg, and the guys from Instagram and so many other social media companies are graduates of that. And it's all about the building applications that are psychologically, I wouldn't call them addictive, but yeah, kind of addictive, where the rewards are uncertain, and just as in gambling, you don't know if you're going to get it, but they come frequently enough to keep you engaged. Yeah. And it's really important that they come really frequent at the beginning, and then later, after you're hooked, they come less frequently. But that's for people who are using social. In terms of an end user or viewer or something like that, like I'm on Facebook or whatever. But I'm talking about you're using LinkedIn as a application to go out and reach a target audience. Yeah. Which brings me to the question: why the heck are you doing this, man? Like, what's the end game on this?
That's it's a multi-layered. I'm going to give you a multi-layered answer on that. It's not just one reason. I think it's been incredibly enriching for me, in the sense that it's opened doors that I could have never anticipated. And literally 3 years ago, nobody had heard of me. Nowadays, I can pretty much have a conversation with anybody. And as somebody who's interested in developing business, that's a very, very useful thing to have in my back pocket, that I can essentially strike up a conversation with any person in the industry, and I can do so at will, without hesitation. People are going to return my solicitation without feeling like I'm trying to sell them something or it's uncomfortable. Most of the time, even when I don't know somebody, they already know about me just because of social media, and that's very helpful. That's probably the main reason. Another reason, I think, is that it really caught me completely by surprise how much I like playing this game. I'm a creative person. I've never, until 3 years ago, I never was able to apply my creativity in a business realm. And so a lot of the feelings I get creating content are the same feelings I get when I'm making a beautiful canvas. It's the same type of satisfaction. Researching something, coming up with content that I know is going to work, and just getting good at something. It's just something that I've come to really, really enjoy. So beyond any ulterior motives, I think it's been a really great journey of self-exploration and of hopefully getting a little wiser with the research that I'm doing.
That's awesome. No, I think, I've spent most of my career on the sales side. And when you first started sales, it can be really challenging. You're putting yourself out there. It can be demoralizing. It's hard. You're always going to get more no's than yeses. And so you have to kind of get a thick skin. But as you get better at it, as you get more confident in your process, in your product or service that you're selling, as you become more adept at it, and then hopefully you're working with an organization that you really believe and trust, it just becomes fun. And then once it becomes fun, that whole virtuous cycle even just kicks in and accelerates and gets bigger, because when it becomes fun, guess what? You do it more often, and you do it with more confidence. Yeah. And when you do something more often, you do it more confidence, you get better at it, and then you get better results. And it's just go, go, go. And I kind of see that with your posts and your journey on social media.
Well, thank you. That's a nice compliment.
That's the only one you're going to get from me. Except for, man, those glasses are awesome. I tell you a story. I don't wear glasses.
Need glasses?
I use readers, and I had these awesome pair of readers. They looked almost like this. Made me look kind of stylish, kind of that Euro stylish kind of thing. And
you couldn't pull it off.
I lost them. Now I got the Walmart specials, and I put them on with my wife, my kids. They just laugh at me. They're like, please do not go out in public with those on. So anyway, I digress. So let's break it down to a couple different scenarios here. You're an LSP marketing manager.
Yeah.
What should they be doing on LinkedIn, man? Or
Everything. They should be doing everything on LinkedIn. I'm a big believer in guerrilla marketing.
par exemple?
Well, so the thing is this, I see a lot of very talented content marketers write content for the website that never gets read. And that's pretty sad. When was the last time you went on a website, Mark, and read somebody's article on their website?
Well, the last time.
Honest answer. You were on some kind of a platform. You saw an article, and you're like, "Oh, that's the article at this LSP's website. I'm gonna click on that link and then go spend 10 minutes reading their article."
No, that rarely happens. What does happen though is when I'll search for something very specific, and I'll find an article and I'll read it. But a lot of times I'm ending up on platforms like Reddit or something where they will pre-rate the articles. And so you know how it works with Reddit. You can get points for good because people vote it up, vote it down. And that kind of that helps me curate. They curate the content for me, and that kind of works. But going to a website and going to their blog and looking through all the different blog posts, never.
Answer me this then. Why do traditional marketers at LSPs in particular continue to post all their curated content behind click walls on their website?
Well, dude, first off, I'm asking the questions here, but
no, but I'm making you think though, because you're challenging me.
No. It's a good question because I think traditional marketers have this checkbox, and they're like, okay, we got to have a website, duh, and on the website we've got to have a blog, and then we need a blog writer, and the blog writer is going to be like, okay, I'm going to write a blog post every week about one post a week about something about our industry. That is kind of the same thing that all the other competitors have on their website, and it's like, wow. So it does give you some SEO, searchable content, but in terms of actually getting reader engagement, you've got to be a very crafty writer. And even if you want that SEO kind of optimization lift, that SEO lift from the content, you have to write the article in a way that it is referenced and linked to. So not via LinkedIn exactly, but if you get any backlinks at all. And there are very specific skills and techniques to getting content linked to. Yeah. And it's not just writing about, what are the 3 tenets of translation, or when you're doing what is simultaneous interpretation, or what is XYZ service. It's really getting in and providing insightful information that are actionable information that other people will say, hey, you know what, this is great, and they'll research it. Let me continue because you asked the question here. A real good technique for creating SEO optimizable content is to think about what are journalists or somebody who's writing an article on something, what are they going to search for? And if you can think about, okay, if somebody's going to write an article about, what's the what are the prospects for translation in the face of AI? And then you wrote that article and it was searched by 1 or 2 journalists. They write about it, reference your article. You think about it. You reached out to you got 2 people, but their audience is huge because they're journalists, right? So that's a whole nother technique. Make sense?
I spent my whole career thinking about what works most effectively in sales and marketing, and what's the best way of reaching customers and getting them interested. And I've spent the last 3 years thinking about pulling instead of pushing, and I feel that with what I'm doing on social media, it's a lot easier to get people interested than by pushing them on somebody's website and looking at content right there that's clearly written for commercial reasons. So companies keep on putting out these ads thinking that that's what's going to generate interest. Obviously, it depends a little bit on what it is that you're selling. But if you're selling something that is complex in nature, that is consultative, and you're going to have to show expertise on, I think it's much more effective to get involved in the LinkedIn game and show your expertise and open up conversations with the things that you're writing about, rather than to put out ads that are not very engaging. LinkedIn is actually giving us the opportunity to engage our potential customers directly and share thought leadership and demonstrate that we know what we're talking about. So what works better than that? I talk to people weekly that are interested in my knowledge and come to me to have conversations, to then be connected with the right people to buy stuff from. So I think that's the way to go.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, I've enjoyed this conversation. Really appreciate you coming out here to memoQ Day Seattle. If any of our listeners, viewers wanted to reach out to you or engage with
I'm
you,
completely inaccessible. That. I don't like to talk to people, so don't bother me. They should reach out to me on LinkedIn, man, and I will be happy to talk with them. Send me a message and we'll have a virtual coffee and we'll talk.
Or just have a podcast and invite Stefan on.
That's right. Then you trick him right away, and you'll have to buy the plane ticket to have him come.
All my free lessons just come from get him on my podcast. Hey, Stefan, thank you so much for coming out here today, and thanks for being on memoQ Talks.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining memoQ Talks, where we talked with industry leaders about their experiences and lessons learned to gain new insights about what works best across all areas of localization. Join us next time on memoQ Talks.